Can you imagine this? Meghan Markle, rejected on the red carpet by Hollywood's rising star, David Corenswet, at the Superman premiere. What led to this shocking public dismissal? In an industry where alliances can make or break careers, this wasn't just an awkward moment, it was a message. David Corenswet, poised to become the next big thing in Hollywood, chose to publicly distance himself from Meghan Markle, one of the world's most famous and controversial figures. Why did he reject her in front of millions, and what does this mean for both of their futures in Hollywood? Was it just a personal decision, or is there a deeper story about image, power, and the pressure to align or break free within the entertainment world? Stick around, because the fallout is far from over. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. What happens when two of the world's most famous celebrities collide on the world's biggest stage, the red carpet? We often imagine these encounters as glamorous, fleeting moments, brief interactions between stars that the public devours. But what if one of those moments became the talk of the town for all the wrong reasons? Imagine this: a premiere that had the world's eyes on it, the release of the much-anticipated Superman film, featuring a new, highly praised actor, David Corenswet, in the lead role. The cameras are flashing, the crowds are roaring, and the stars of the evening are gliding effortlessly down the red carpet. But suddenly, the unthinkable happens. Amid the glitz and the glamour, a confrontation takes place. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, a woman who has captivated the world's attention for years, approaches David Corenswet, only to be rejected in a public, shocking manner. "Go away," David tells her, in full view of the flashing cameras and the thousands of eyes watching the event unfold. This wasn't a polite, "no thank you," or a brief moment of awkwardness that would have gone unnoticed. No, this was a deliberate, public snub. It was a moment that left the media and fans alike scrambling to understand the why and the how of it all. What had led to this startling exchange between one of the most famous women in the world and one of Hollywood's rising stars? This is where the story takes an intriguing turn. In a world where celebrity interactions are often carefully curated, where even the most mundane moments are analyzed for hidden meanings, this incident was far from ordinary. It was more than just a fleeting brush-off. It was a public rejection that carried with it layers of complexity, emotion, and, for many, a shockingly deep sense of discomfort. Why would Corenswet, a man on the brink of superstardom, risk alienating a woman like Meghan Markle, whose name alone commands global attention? To understand the magnitude of this moment, we must first peel back the layers of each individual involved. Who is David Corenswet, and what made him react this way to Meghan Markle's overtures? On the surface, he's an actor with a rapidly rising career, set to take on one of Hollywood's most coveted roles. But is there more to his refusal than simply a professional decision? And Meghan Markle, who is she really? A former royal, a global icon, and a woman whose very name has come to symbolize both admiration and controversy. Why did she, of all people, find herself on the receiving end of such a shocking rejection? In this video, we're going to dive deep into the incident at the Superman premiere. We'll break down every detail, from the public personas of Corenswet and Markle to the power dynamics that play out on the red carpet. We'll explore why this moment matters, not just as a fleeting bit of drama, but as a significant turning point in both of their careers. How does this event affect the trajectory of David Corenswet's rise in Hollywood? What does it say about Meghan Markle's position in the entertainment world, and even her relationship with the media? This video isn't just about one awkward interaction on a red carpet. It's about understanding the forces that shape celebrity culture, the invisible rules that govern these high-stakes moments, and what happens when those rules are broken. How does one simple moment, one rejection, have the power to reverberate throughout Hollywood, altering the course of public perception for both David Corenswet and Meghan Markle? By the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of not just what happened at that premiere, but also why it matters. We'll reveal surprising facts, uncover hidden truths, and offer expert analysis that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about Hollywood, fame, and the people who live their lives under its unforgiving spotlight. So, sit back, relax, and let's take a journey into the heart of this unforgettable moment, one that you won't soon forget. Background on David Corenswet's rise to fame. To truly understand the shocking rejection of Meghan Markle by David Corenswet, we first need to take a closer look at the man at the center of the controversy. While Meghan Markle is a household name, having been thrust into the global spotlight as a member of the British royal family, David Corenswet is an actor whose rise to fame has been a more subtle, though no less significant, journey. Corenswet's name may not have been widely known just a few years ago, but that all changed when he was cast as the new Superman in DC's Superman. Legacy, a role that instantly catapulted him into the upper echelons of Hollywood stardom. However, Corenswet's path to the role of Superman was anything but instantaneous. It was a slow burn, one that involved years of hard work, dedication, and a string of smaller roles that built his reputation in the entertainment industry. David Corenswet was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in 1993, a city known for producing some of Hollywood's biggest names. But Corenswet didn't emerge from the typical celebrity mold. His upbringing was rooted in a sense of normalcy, far from the chaotic world of fame and fortune. Raised in a supportive family environment, he was given the space to explore his interests and talents. His early passion for performing arts led him to study at Juilliard, one of the most prestigious drama schools in the world. At Juilliard, Corenswet honed his craft, learning the ins and outs of acting, voice, and stage performance. His early performances were promising, but it wasn't until after graduation that his career began to gain serious momentum. In the years that followed, he appeared in a variety of television shows, earning critical praise for his nuanced portrayals of characters who were often more than what they seemed at first glance. His early roles in shows like The Politician on Netflix revealed a talent for playing complex characters, and he quickly became a rising star in the entertainment industry. While Corenswet's television career was blossoming, it was his eventual casting as Superman that truly made him a household name. When it was announced that Corenswet would be playing the iconic superhero, fans of DC Comics were both excited and apprehensive. Superman was a character whose legacy had been built by some of the most legendary actors in history. The pressure to live up to such a legacy was immense, but Corenswet seemed unfazed by the task at hand. For Corenswet, the role of Superman wasn't just a career milestone. It was a chance to redefine what the character could represent in a modern context. Gone were the days of the traditional, morally perfect Superman. In Corenswet's version, the superhero would embody both strength and vulnerability, balancing his larger-than-life persona with the complexities of being human. This nuanced approach to the character earned Corenswet critical acclaim, with industry insiders noting his ability to bring depth and authenticity to what could have easily been a one-dimensional role. But it wasn't just Corenswet's performance that earned him praise. His personality off-camera was equally magnetic, and he quickly gained a reputation for being down-to-earth, humble, and refreshingly candid in interviews. Unlike some of his contemporaries, Corenswet wasn't interested in playing the game of celebrity to the extent that it consumed his life. He had a clear sense of who he was and what he wanted out of his career, something that set him apart from other rising stars who often bent to the pressures of Hollywood's image-driven culture. As he rose to fame, Corenswet also became a sought-after figure in fashion and endorsement deals. He appeared in high-profile magazine spreads and became the face of several luxury brands. His growing influence in the entertainment industry was undeniable, and it seemed that nothing could stand in the way of his ascension to superstardom. But even with all this success, Corenswet remained grounded, choosing to keep his personal life relatively private while focusing on his craft. This humility, however, should not be mistaken for a lack of awareness. Corenswet was acutely aware of the complex dynamics at play in Hollywood. He understood that fame came with its own set of challenges, including the pressure to maintain a certain public image. But what set him apart was his ability to navigate these challenges without losing sight of his true self. In a world where many celebrities are driven by the need to constantly be in the public eye, Corenswet seemed to find a delicate balance between his career and his personal life. But why does this matter in the context of his rejection of Meghan Markle? To understand this, we need to consider the pressures Corenswet was under at the time of the incident. He was at the peak of his career, about to embark on what could arguably be the most significant role of his life. The Superman premiere was a defining moment for him, a chance to solidify his place in Hollywood's A-list. Given this level of scrutiny, it's no surprise that Corenswet would want to guard his public image fiercely. As we look back on the night of the Superman premiere, it becomes clear that Corenswet's actions were not made in haste or out of spite. He was navigating a complex and high-stakes environment, one where every move was being scrutinized by fans, the media, and the Hollywood elite. His refusal to engage with Meghan Markle publicly was likely not just a matter of personal preference. It was a carefully considered decision. Corenswet, while immensely talented and charming, had worked hard to build a reputation for himself in a world that often punishes those who make the wrong moves at the wrong time. And in that moment, walking the red carpet with Meghan Markle, a woman who had been the subject of so much media controversy, could have jeopardized everything he had worked so hard to achieve. It's also worth noting that Corenswet's experience in Hollywood had exposed him to the undercurrents of celebrity life, particularly the manipulation of public perception. He had seen firsthand how a seemingly innocuous interaction could be blown out of proportion or twisted into a scandal. In a world where every moment is dissected and analyzed, Corenswet may have been unwilling to risk aligning himself with someone whose public persona was so polarizing. In choosing to distance himself from Meghan Markle on that fateful night, Corenswet was perhaps making a statement about the kind of career he wanted to have, one built on authenticity and creative integrity, rather than the calculated maneuvering that sometimes dominates Hollywood. The public persona of Meghan Markle. To understand the full weight of David Corenswet's rejection of Meghan Markle, we need to dive deeper into the persona of the woman at the center of this viral moment. Meghan Markle is no stranger to the public eye. In fact, she has been one of the most closely watched and debated public figures of the last decade. From her rise as a television actress to her marriage to Prince Harry and subsequent departure from the royal family, Markle's every move has been scrutinized by millions worldwide. Born in Los Angeles in 1981, Meghan Markle's entry into the public spotlight began with her acting career. After attending Northwestern University and studying theater, she quickly found herself in the entertainment industry. Her breakthrough came in the early 2010s when she landed the role of Rachel Zane on the hit television show Suits. The role was pivotal in marking her as a rising star, but it wasn't until her marriage to Prince Harry in 2018 that her life truly became a global spectacle. When Meghan and Harry tied the knot, the world watched with bated breath. The wedding, which was held at Windsor Castle, was broadcast to millions of people around the world. Meghan, the American actress, was marrying into one of the most famous and storied royal families in the world, a union that was seen as both modern and progressive. The fairy tale wedding seemed to signal the beginning of a new era for the British royal family. Meghan was not only an outsider, but also someone with a platform to speak about issues like race, gender equality, and social justice. Her presence in the royal family was seen as a breath of fresh air in an institution often viewed as antiquated and out of touch with modern sensibilities. But what followed was anything but a fairy tale. While Meghan's early days in the royal family were filled with media attention, it wasn't long before the couple found themselves at the center of controversy. The media's obsession with Meghan Markle quickly took a darker turn. The constant scrutiny, the invasion of her privacy, and the relentless criticism became too much for her to handle. In 2020, Meghan and Harry made the highly publicized decision to step back from their royal duties, a move that would later come to be known as Megxit. The couple's decision to leave the royal family shook the world. While some applauded them for asserting their independence, others saw it as a betrayal of the institution. Meghan, once hailed as a modern princess, was now being painted as someone who was abandoning her royal duties for fame and fortune. This drastic move was not just about stepping away from royal duties, it was about reclaiming their personal narrative. Meghan and Harry both made it clear that their decision to leave was motivated by a desire to live more freely and authentically, away from the intense media scrutiny that had taken over their lives. However, Meghan's departure from the royal family did not come without its own set of challenges. In the years that followed, she faced increased media backlash. From the accusations of hypocrisy after purchasing a multi-million-dollar mansion in Montecito, California, to the ongoing tensions between her and the royal family, Meghan's life became a series of public battles. She was portrayed as either a hero or a villain. There was little middle ground in the media's portrayal of her. This duality of perception has become a hallmark of Meghan's public persona. For many, she represents a woman who has been unfairly attacked and vilified by the media, a victim of systemic racism and a broken institution. She has spoken openly about her struggles with mental health and the toll that the press's treatment of her has taken on her well-being. Her 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey was a defining moment in her public life, where she revealed intimate details about her time within the royal family, her miscarriage, and her feelings of isolation. Yet, for others, Meghan represents something altogether different, a celebrity who has capitalized on her royal connections to build a brand and a platform. Critics have accused her of exploiting her connection to the royal family for personal gain, whether through book deals, documentaries, or her partnership with Spotify. In their eyes, Meghan Markle is someone who left behind her royal responsibilities in pursuit of fame and fortune, using her past to build a profitable career in Hollywood. For them, Meghan's every move is seen through a lens of skepticism, as her personal brand continues to evolve in a way that often feels at odds with her earlier image as a compassionate royal. This polarized perception of Meghan Markle is important when we consider the interaction between her and David Corenswet on the red carpet. Meghan is a woman who has made a career out of being the subject of public scrutiny. She has faced everything from criticism of her fashion choices to accusations of hypocrisy regarding her environmental advocacy. But perhaps the most significant aspect of Meghan's public persona is the sense that she is always under attack, always on the defensive. For many, this makes her a sympathetic figure. But for others, it raises questions about her motives and her willingness to navigate the media with a sense of control. In the case of her encounter with David Corenswet at the Superman premiere, we see Meghan in a vulnerable position, an outsider in a world that once embraced her. She had been rejected by a rising star at the peak of her fame, a man whose career was just beginning to take off. What made Corenswet's rejection particularly striking was that it occurred in the presence of millions, on a red carpet where the stakes are high, and every interaction is a potential media moment. In this context, Meghan was no longer the royal or the victimized celebrity. She was a woman whose attempt to connect with someone in the industry was publicly dismissed. What does this moment say about Meghan Markle and her place in the entertainment world? It suggests that despite her fame and influence, Meghan remains a figure who is subject to judgment, both from the public and from her peers. It reveals that even in the most glamorous of settings, where celebrities often align themselves for mutual benefit, there are still boundaries that can be drawn, boundaries that Meghan Markle, for all her star power, has yet to fully overcome. The encounter also serves as a reminder of the ever-shifting dynamics within Hollywood. Celebrities who were once seen as untouchable can find themselves on the outside looking in, especially when their public image becomes too complicated or controversial. In many ways, Meghan's experience on the red carpet with David Corenswet was a stark reminder that Hollywood is a place where power and status are constantly in flux, and even the most famous figures can be pushed to the margins. The premise of the Superman premiere. The Superman premiere, an event eagerly anticipated by fans, industry insiders, and the media alike, was meant to be a moment of celebration. For David Corenswet, this event marked the pinnacle of his career so far. It wasn't just another Hollywood red carpet. It was his moment to shine, to make his mark as the new face of one of the most iconic superheroes in film history. Every detail of the evening had been carefully planned, from the glamorous outfits worn by the stars to the perfectly timed flashes of the paparazzi cameras. For Corenswet, it was a night to solidify his place in the Hollywood firmament. In the months leading up to the premiere, the buzz surrounding Corenswet's casting as Superman had only intensified. Fans were eager to see how he would step into the legendary role that had been portrayed by actors like Christopher Reeve and Henry Cavill. There were whispers about his acting chops, his ability to embody the duality of Clark Kent and Superman, and his potential to revitalize the character in a way that appealed to both old and new fans. But beyond the hype surrounding the film, this premiere was also an opportunity for Corenswet to prove himself as a bona fide star in Hollywood, a rising talent. Why? The venue for the event was nothing short of spectacular, a massive theater in the heart of Los Angeles, known for hosting some of the biggest premieres in the industry. The atmosphere was electric, charged with excitement, anticipation, and the knowledge that this was not just another Hollywood event. It was a cultural moment. The red carpet was lined with photographers, reporters, and fans hoping to catch a glimpse of the stars as they arrived. For many, this premiere represented the culmination of years of effort, both on-screen and off, as the cast and crew prepared to unveil what they hoped would be a cinematic triumph. David Corenswet's arrival on the red carpet was, naturally, the focus of attention. As the new Superman, all eyes were on him. He was dressed impeccably, with his perfectly tailored suit and confident smile that had already captured the hearts of fans in interviews and promotional materials. His poised demeanor suggested a man who was ready to take on the world, and with his debut in the role of Superman, it seemed like his Hollywood trajectory was only going to soar. His ability to balance humility with star power made him an easy figure to root for, someone who had worked hard to get to this point and was now finally reaping the rewards of his dedication and talent. But it wasn't just Corenswet's star power that was on display that night. The premiere was filled with Hollywood's elite, established stars, producers, directors, and executives, all walking the carpet in their finest attire. The energy was contagious, a blend of excitement and pressure that enveloped everyone in attendance. As much as it was a celebration, it was also a reminder of the cutthroat nature of the industry. For every actor walking the red carpet, there were dozens more hoping to be in their position. Success in Hollywood, even for someone as talented as Corenswet, was never guaranteed, and everyone present was acutely aware of the stakes. In the midst of all this glitz and glamour, the arrival of Meghan Markle at the premiere felt like an unexpected twist. While she had long since stepped away from the royal family, her celebrity status had not diminished. Meghan was still a force to be reckoned with in the entertainment world, and her presence at the Superman premiere was a reminder that she, too, was a key figure in Hollywood. However, her position was somewhat more complex than Corenswet's. As someone who had once been an insider in the royal family, Meghan's status in the entertainment world was now under a different kind of scrutiny. Meghan's decision to attend the premiere was likely a strategic one. Her relationship with Hollywood had been strained at times, particularly following her and Prince Harry's departure from the royal family and their subsequent media interviews, which had led to criticism from both the public and some in the entertainment industry. But at this moment, the premiere of Superman presented an opportunity for Meghan to reassert her place in Hollywood. After all, her Hollywood career was just beginning to take shape in earnest, with deals in the works for Netflix documentaries, book projects, and speaking engagements. It was a chance for her to be seen as part of the Hollywood elite again, to make an appearance that was stylish and, perhaps, symbolic of her return to the spotlight on her own terms. But her presence at the premiere would also bring with it the baggage of her past. Meghan's relationship with the media was fraught with tension. She had been vilified by tabloids, scrutinized for everything from her fashion choices to her relationship with her family. Even the manner in which she and Prince Harry left the royal family, amid accusations of selfishness and hypocrisy, had become a point of contention. Meghan had been painted as someone who was playing the media game but doing so on her own terms, making deals and telling her story in ways that some saw as self-serving. While her supporters admired her for standing up to the system, others viewed her as opportunistic, someone using her royal connection to further her own personal agenda. This made her appearance at the Superman premiere all the more interesting. It wasn't just another red carpet moment. It was a chance for Meghan to engage with Hollywood's elite and potentially redefine her place within the entertainment industry. However, as the evening wore on, it became clear that her presence on the carpet would not be without complications. What no one anticipated was the tension that would arise when Meghan approached David Corenswet, an interaction that would ultimately end in rejection. Meghan's approach to Corenswet was no small thing. Her presence at the premiere was already a statement in itself. She wasn't just there as a passive attendee, she was making a point of showing up, making her voice heard, and asserting her place in the Hollywood landscape. When she approached Corenswet with the intention of walking with him on the red carpet, it seemed like a natural move. After all, she was a Hollywood veteran with significant star power, and Corenswet, while gaining prominence, was still a rising star in the industry. It would have been a mutually beneficial moment for both, a sign of solidarity between two figures at the height of their careers. However, what transpired in that moment would shock everyone in attendance, and the subsequent fallout would only add fuel to the already raging fire of speculation surrounding Meghan's place in Hollywood. It was in this high-stakes environment, filled with the pressure to succeed and maintain a certain image, that Corenswet made the decision to reject Meghan Markle's offer to walk with him. This rejection, seemingly simple on the surface, held deeper implications about how the Hollywood elite viewed Meghan and her complex relationship with fame. The incident, Meghan Markle's request to walk with David Corenswet. The red carpet is often a spectacle of elegance, beauty, and calculated movements. For most celebrities, it's a chance to be seen, to engage with the media, and to show off their carefully curated personas. It is also, for better or worse, a space where images are created and perceptions are shaped. And then, there are moments that break through the carefully constructed facade, moments that disrupt the public narrative and leave everyone questioning what just happened. One such moment occurred at the Superman premiere, a moment that no one saw coming. Meghan Markle's arrival at the premiere was a statement in itself. Though she had stepped back from royal duties, her name still commanded attention, and her presence at any major Hollywood event would inevitably stir the pot. She had been away from the public eye for some time, working on various projects and trying to re-establish herself within the entertainment industry. She had also faced a backlash, particularly in the wake of her and Prince Harry's decision to leave the royal family, an action that had been divisive and controversial. Yet, here she was, on one of the biggest red carpets of the year, trying to carve out her place once again. The moment she stepped onto the red carpet, Meghan became the focal point of the evening. Paparazzi cameras flashed as she walked, her every step followed by the scrutiny of the world. There was, of course, nothing unusual about this. Meghan Markle was used to the attention. But this time, there was an undeniable sense of tension in the air, as if the stakes were higher than ever. She wasn't just walking the carpet as a former member of the royal family. She was walking it as a woman trying to reassert her relevance in an industry that had always been critical, if not entirely welcoming. As Meghan made her way down the carpet, she stopped briefly for photos and exchanged pleasantries with a few industry figures. But there was one individual she was particularly eager to engage with, David Corenswet. To the public, this would have seemed like a natural interaction. After all, Corenswet was the star of the moment, and Meghan had built her own name in Hollywood. She was a veteran in her own right, with a personal brand that included a large following and a significant influence in the industry. Given their respective places in the entertainment world, it only made sense that they would connect, perhaps even walk the carpet together. But when Meghan approached Corenswet, the response was far from what anyone could have predicted. Eyewitnesses reported that Meghan's demeanor was friendly, yet assertive. She walked toward Corenswet with a smile, extending her hand, perhaps in a gesture of goodwill or an attempt to forge a public alliance. After all, Meghan's re-entry into Hollywood was anything but smooth. Her marriage to Prince Harry, the media attention, the controversies, it had all made her a divisive figure. Aligning herself with a rising star like Corenswet, who was beloved by fans and regarded as a future Hollywood A-lister, could have been seen as a strategic move, a way to position herself alongside an actor whose trajectory was only going upward. However, Corenswet's response was a far cry from what Meghan might have expected. Instead of reciprocating the gesture, Corenswet visibly distanced himself. His body language shifted, and witnesses described him as noticeably uncomfortable. He didn't extend his hand, nor did he engage in the friendly pleasantries one would typically expect at such an event. Instead, in a move that caught many off guard, Corenswet told Meghan, "Go away." The words themselves weren't shouted or aggressively delivered, but they were unmistakably clear. It was a public rejection and outright refusal to walk the carpet together, despite the fact that Meghan had made her intentions known. The rejection wasn't just subtle, it was noticeable to everyone in the vicinity, from the photographers to the guests to the media watching from the sidelines. And it didn't go unnoticed by those watching the scene unfold. The cameras continued to flash, capturing the awkward exchange that would quickly become the center of the evening's discussion. In the immediate aftermath, the reactions were mixed. Some media outlets took a more neutral stance, simply reporting the facts. Meghan Markle had attempted to walk the red carpet with David Corenswet, and he had declined. But as the story spread across social media, the public's reaction was anything but neutral. Comments flooded in from every direction. Some saw the rejection as a deliberate power move by Corenswet, a man asserting his independence from the controversies surrounding Meghan. Others saw it as an unkind dismissal, a sign of the tension that existed between Meghan and the Hollywood elite. It was impossible to ignore the deeper currents of animosity that this exchange seemed to embody, currents that were far from incidental. For Meghan, this moment was a significant blow. She had walked away from the royal family, faced endless media scrutiny, and now, in a moment that was supposed to signal her return to Hollywood, she was rejected publicly by one of the industry's rising stars. The implications of this rejection were multifaceted. On one hand, it reinforced her image as an outsider, someone who, despite her fame and influence, was no longer fully embraced by the Hollywood establishment. On the other hand, it raised questions about her place in the industry. Was she truly accepted, or was she still, in some ways, an outcast, someone whose past would continue to haunt her as she navigated the entertainment world? But for Corenswet, this moment carried its own weight. As a rising star, he was acutely aware of the pressures that came with his newfound fame. He had been thrust into the spotlight with the announcement that he would play Superman, a role that carried with it a history of great success as well as immense pressure. In Hollywood, where alliances are often made and broken on a whim, aligning oneself with the right people at the right time is a delicate dance. Corenswet's rejection of Meghan Markle was not just a personal decision, it was also a professional one. In refusing to walk with her, he was making a statement about the kind of career he wanted to build. The public's reaction to the incident further underscored the complexity of the situation. On social media, fans quickly weighed in, some defending Corenswet's actions as a sign of integrity, while others criticized him for being rude and dismissive. The incident sparked a larger conversation about power dynamics in Hollywood, celebrity relationships, and the delicate balance between personal and professional connections. This moment also raised larger questions about Meghan's place in the world of Hollywood. Was this rejection a sign of something deeper, a symbol of her struggle to re-establish herself in an industry that often values image and reputation above all else? Or was it simply a personal exchange between two individuals who, for whatever reason, didn't see eye to eye in that particular moment? What was clear, however, was that the incident at the Superman premiere was a turning point. It wasn't just another piece of celebrity gossip. It was a moment that highlighted the fractured relationship between Meghan Markle and Hollywood's power players. A relationship that had been shaped by media scrutiny, public perception, and personal choices. David Corenswet's response, "Go away." When the words, "go away," left David Corenswet's lips, the world seemed to hold its breath. It wasn't just a rejection. It was a public, sharp dismissal of someone who had once been at the peak of public adoration. Meghan Markle, despite her tumultuous relationship with the press and the royal family, was still one of the most well-known celebrities in the world. Yet, in that moment, she was met with an unexpected refusal by one of Hollywood's hottest rising stars. The exchange wasn't just about one celebrity rejecting another. It was a significant moment in the ongoing narrative of power and control in the entertainment industry. Corenswet, who had been thrust into the limelight as the new Superman, was suddenly confronted with the reality of how his actions could shape his public image. Despite the media frenzy surrounding Meghan Markle and the controversy that often followed her, Corenswet's decision to reject her publicly, in front of cameras, spoke volumes about how he viewed his place in the industry. To fully understand the weight of Corenswet's actions, it's important to consider his perspective as an up-and-coming actor in Hollywood. In a town where reputations can be made or broken on the basis of one interaction, the stakes of any public moment are immense. It's easy to assume that stars like Corenswet, who were on the brink of superstardom, would welcome any opportunity to align themselves with big names, especially those as globally recognized as Meghan Markle. After all, Hollywood is a place where making connections is paramount. The alliances you form, both personal and professional, can define the trajectory of your career. So why would Corenswet, who had everything to gain from walking the red carpet with Meghan, decide to distance himself from her? The answer is likely more complex than simply not wanting to be seen with her. For one, Corenswet was in a unique position. He was the star of the evening. As the lead actor in the highly anticipated Superman film, all eyes were on him. He wasn't just another actor at the premiere. He was the face of a massive franchise. For Corenswet, the red carpet was an opportunity to set the tone for his career, a chance to showcase his professionalism, charm, and commitment to the craft. But there was more at play here than just career ambitions. As someone who had worked diligently to build his career from the ground up, Corenswet was well aware of the pitfalls of fame. He had seen how the media could twist stories, how an offhand comment or a seemingly innocent interaction could turn into a scandal. In rejecting Meghan Markle, Corenswet may have been sending a message about the kind of career he wanted to build. A career that was grounded in authenticity and integrity, not one that was defined by drama and controversy. The rejection also reflected something deeper about Corenswet's values. While Hollywood is known for its connections and networking, it is also a place where personal boundaries often get blurred. Many actors and actresses feel the pressure to align themselves with certain people, to ingratiate themselves with power players, even when they might not feel comfortable doing so. Corenswet's refusal to engage with Meghan Markle was likely a reflection of his unwillingness to compromise his personal beliefs or comfort level for the sake of fame. In a sense, he was drawing a line in the sand, refusing to allow his image to be shaped by anyone other than himself. Moreover, Corenswet's rejection of Meghan Markle was a moment that drew attention to the shifting power dynamics within Hollywood. In the past, stars like Meghan Markle, who had royal ties and a massive media presence, would have been seen as someone to align with, someone whose star power could help boost another actor's career. But Corenswet's refusal signaled that the dynamics in Hollywood were changing. He wasn't interested in using Meghan Markle's fame as a stepping stone to success. Instead, he was setting boundaries and, perhaps more importantly, signaling that he was in control of his own narrative. This decision to distance himself from Meghan Markle also underscored the complex nature of celebrity in the modern age. In the past, celebrities were often seen as untouchable, as icons who could do no wrong. But in today's world, where every move is tracked and scrutinized by millions, even the most powerful stars are vulnerable to public opinion. Corenswet's rejection of Meghan Markle was, in some ways, an attempt to protect his reputation before it could be tainted by association. He had worked hard to build a career based on his talent, his authenticity, and his relatability. The last thing he likely wanted was to be caught up in the drama that so often surrounds Meghan Markle's public persona. For Meghan, the rejection must have been a blow. Despite the controversies that had followed her throughout her time in the royal family and beyond, she had still managed to maintain a high level of celebrity and influence. But Corenswet's public dismissal of her forced her to confront a difficult reality. Hollywood was no longer as welcoming as it once had been. While she had once been embraced by the media and the public, her relationship with both had become increasingly strained. The red carpet, which had once been a place of validation and recognition, had now become a battleground, with some stars distancing themselves from her to avoid being caught in the crossfire. The incident also reflected the changing dynamics within the entertainment industry itself. The rise of social media and the increasing scrutiny of public figures had created a new environment in which celebrities were no longer able to hide behind carefully crafted personas. Instead, they were being forced to make decisions about who they aligned themselves with, who they stood by, and who they chose to reject. For Corenswet, rejecting Meghan Markle was a way of asserting his own identity in an industry that often tries to define stars based on the company they keep. The public's reaction to the incident was swift and polarizing. On social media, fans of both Corenswet and Meghan Markle weighed in with their opinions, some defending Corenswet for standing his ground, while others criticized him for his lack of empathy. The incident sparked a larger conversation about the nature of fame, the pressure to conform, and the boundaries that celebrities should be allowed to set in their personal and professional lives. Many were left wondering whether Corenswet's rejection was a personal decision, or if it had been influenced by the ongoing media circus surrounding Meghan Markle's every move. This moment, brief as it was, served as a reminder of the power dynamics at play in Hollywood and the fragile nature of celebrity. Even the most well-established stars can find themselves cast aside if they fail to navigate the complex web of relationships that define the entertainment industry. For Corenswet, the decision to reject Meghan Markle wasn't just about a red carpet interaction. It was about protecting his career, his image, and his values in an industry that often demands compromises. For Meghan, it was a harsh reminder that Hollywood, for all its allure and promise, can be a cold and unforgiving place. Behind Meghan Markle's public image. To understand the full scope of the incident at the Superman premiere and the dramatic rejection by David Corenswet, we need to take a step back and examine the complex, multifaceted persona of Meghan Markle. For better or worse, Meghan has become one of the most polarizing figures in modern celebrity culture, a woman whose every move is analyzed and scrutinized by the media and the public alike. Her journey from a little-known actress to the Duchess of Sussex and then to a globally recognized figure who simultaneously inspires adoration and contempt is nothing short of fascinating. At the heart of Meghan Markle's public image is a narrative that has been shaped and reshaped by the media. From the moment her relationship with Prince Harry became public, Meghan was thrust into the spotlight in a way few can imagine. Her transition from the world of Hollywood to the British royal family was jarring for many, especially for those who expected the monarchy to maintain a sense of tradition and decorum. Meghan, however, represented something different, a modern woman of mixed race, an American divorcee, and a feminist who had been an outspoken advocate for women's rights long before she became the Duchess of Sussex. In the years that followed, Meghan's public image became increasingly complicated. She was no longer just an actress or a socialite, she was a royal, someone whose every action was subject to intense scrutiny. Her every move, from her fashion choices to her charitable efforts, became a subject of public fascination. The very essence of her being was dissected, often in ways that seemed invasive and cruel. The press became her biggest adversary, constantly portraying her as a figure who was difficult, controversial, and, at times, ungrateful for the privileges she had been afforded. What made Meghan's story even more compelling and controversial was the sense of rebellion that ran through her actions. She wasn't content to be the dutiful, quiet royal wife. She spoke out against the media's treatment of her, against the historical practices of the monarchy, and against the pressures placed on women in positions of power. Meghan's willingness to speak out made her a target for many. For some, she was a trailblazer, someone who was willing to break from centuries of royal tradition in favor of speaking her truth. For others, she was seen as a disruptor, someone who was using her royal title to achieve personal gain and attention. This division in public opinion became even more pronounced when Meghan and Harry made the decision to step back from their royal duties in early 2020. The announcement sent shockwaves through the media and the public. It was a bold move, one that reflected Meghan's desire to control her own destiny and forge a path that wasn't defined by the expectations of the royal family or the media. The couple's subsequent relocation to California, coupled with their multi-million-dollar deals with companies like Netflix and Spotify, further fueled the narrative that Meghan was more interested in the trappings of celebrity than in fulfilling her royal duties. Critics were quick to pounce on Meghan for what they perceived as hypocrisy. How could someone who had so publicly denounced the pressures of fame and royalty then turn around and sign lucrative contracts with streaming services? How could she claim to want privacy while simultaneously launching a podcast, giving interviews, and documenting her life for the world to see? Meghan became the embodiment of contradiction in the eyes of her critics. She was a woman who preached one thing but appeared to do another, and the public was left to wrestle with the inconsistencies that seemed to define her. But there was also another side to Meghan's public image, one that garnered a great deal of empathy. Meghan was, after all, a woman who had faced immense challenges in her life. Her mixed-race heritage had often made her the target of racist commentary, both from the public and from the press. Her mother, Doria Ragland, had been an active presence in her life, but Meghan's father had been absent for much of her childhood, leaving her with a complicated relationship with her family. In interviews, Meghan spoke openly about the toll that her treatment by the media had taken on her mental health. She talked about feeling isolated, unprotected, and under constant attack. For many, Meghan's candidness about her struggles made her a sympathetic figure, one who had been unfairly maligned by a society that was often more interested in tearing her down than in supporting her. Her 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey, where she and Prince Harry revealed intimate details about their time within the royal family, was a watershed moment in shaping Meghan's public image. In that interview, Meghan laid bare her experience of royal life, describing feelings of isolation, mental anguish, and even suicidal thoughts. The interview shocked the world, sparking a global conversation about race, mental health, and the oppressive nature of royal life. For some, this was the moment when Meghan finally revealed the true nature of her struggles, and they rallied behind her. For others, it confirmed their suspicions that Meghan was an opportunist, seeking to profit from her royal connections while simultaneously criticizing the very institution that had made her famous. But the complexity of Meghan's image goes beyond just her relationship with the royal family and the media. She is also a deeply private person, someone who, despite her fame, values her personal life and the privacy of her family. This desire for privacy often clashes with the expectations placed on her by the public. As a result, Meghan finds herself walking a tightrope between maintaining her personal boundaries and meeting the expectations of a public that is constantly demanding more access, more transparency, and more insight into her life. When we examine her public persona through the lens of the Superman premiere, it's clear that Meghan's image was a significant factor in the rejection she faced from David Corenswet. While Corenswet's decision to distance himself from Meghan might have been personal, it was also tied to the wider perceptions of her in the media and Hollywood. In some ways, Meghan had become a lightning rod for controversy, a figure whose presence could either elevate or tarnish a public event. Her status in Hollywood had always been a bit precarious, and moments like this served as a reminder of the challenges she faced as she navigated an industry that had, at times, been less than welcoming. The Superman premiere was more than just a red carpet event. It was a moment where the tensions between celebrity, power, and public perception came to the forefront. For Meghan, the incident with Corenswet served as a stark reminder of how fragile her standing in Hollywood truly was. Despite her fame, despite her personal and professional achievements, she was still, in many ways, an outsider in an industry that prized conformity and image control. Her attempt to walk the carpet with Corenswet, to align herself with a rising star, was seen as an effort to regain some control over her public image, to show that she still had relevance in the industry. But Corenswet's rejection underscored the idea that, for many, Meghan's past, her controversies, and the ongoing media scrutiny she faced were not so easily forgotten. As the media continued to spin the story, the public was left to wonder, what does this incident say about Meghan's future in Hollywood? Was this just a fleeting moment, a minor interaction that would soon be forgotten? Or was it a sign of something deeper, the realization that Meghan Markle, despite her fame and influence, would always be defined, at least in part, by the controversies that had followed her from her days as a royal to her re-entry into Hollywood? The role of power dynamics and celebrity interactions. In the glitzy world of Hollywood, few things are as carefully orchestrated as the interactions between celebrities, especially in the high-pressure, media-saturated environment of a red carpet event. Every handshake, every glance, every public display of friendship or rivalry is scrutinized by the public, the press, and even industry insiders. But behind the polished exterior of these interactions lies a complex web of power dynamics, where control, influence, and reputation are constantly at play. The incident between Meghan Markle and David Corenswet at the Superman premiere is a perfect example of how these power dynamics come into play, particularly in an industry where the rules of engagement are often unwritten, but still deeply felt. Corenswet, the rising star at the forefront of the evening, was at a pivotal point in his career. He had just landed one of the most coveted roles in Hollywood, Superman, and was poised to take his place as one of the industry's new leading men. For Corenswet, the premiere was not just a night to celebrate a film, it was a chance to solidify his reputation and his status in an industry where reputation is everything. Meghan Markle, on the other hand, despite being one of the most famous women in the world, found herself in a very different position. Though she had once been embraced by Hollywood and the public for her charm and relatability, her journey through the royal family and her subsequent exit had complicated her relationship with the entertainment industry. The media attention she and her husband Prince Harry had received, coupled with their decision to leave the royal family, had created a narrative that made her a divisive figure in the public eye. Her presence at the Superman premiere, then, wasn't just about celebrating a film or aligning with the Hollywood elite. It was about reclaiming her place in an industry that had, in some ways, turned its back on her. When we look at the rejection that Meghan faced from David Corenswet, it becomes clear that power dynamics were a major factor in the interaction. While Meghan may have expected to be greeted with warmth and perhaps even invited to walk the carpet with Corenswet, the reality was much different. The power imbalance between the two, though subtle, was palpable. Corenswet, as the star of the moment, had far more leverage in the situation. He was the one who had the most to gain from the premiere's success, and any association with a controversial figure like Meghan Markle could have potentially affected his public image, especially given the polarizing nature of her public persona. In Hollywood, where image is everything, the company one keeps can be just as important as the work one does. Aligning oneself with the right people can elevate a career, while associating with the wrong person can have damaging consequences. For Corenswet, choosing not to walk the carpet with Meghan was likely a conscious decision about how he wanted to be perceived. In an industry where your personal brand is constantly under construction, the last thing an up-and-coming star wants is to risk being caught up in someone else's drama. This is where the role of power dynamics becomes even more apparent. Corenswet, though still relatively new to the spotlight, was wielding power in this situation, whether consciously or not. Meghan, by contrast, was the one who was arguably at a disadvantage. Despite her immense fame, her recent history had made her a more controversial figure in Hollywood. The media's portrayal of Meghan as a royal rebel, someone who had turned her back on the institution that had given her so much, meant that many in the industry saw her as a risky association. Hollywood, for all its talk of progressivism and inclusivity, is often a place where the most valuable commodity is a squeaky clean image. Anyone who threatens that image, even unintentionally, becomes a liability. This was especially true for an actor like Corenswet, who had only just begun to carve out a place for himself in the industry. As Superman, he was inheriting a legacy that had been defined by iconic portrayals in films and television. The weight of the role, coupled with the immense fan base that came with it, meant that Corenswet couldn't afford to make mistakes, at least not in the public eye. In a moment that could have seemed like a harmless opportunity to pose for a photo or share a moment with a fellow celebrity, Corenswet likely saw more at stake. The power dynamics between him and Meghan were clear. Corenswet had more to lose than Meghan if the interaction went awry. But the complexity of these dynamics doesn't stop there. It's important to note that the media also plays a significant role in shaping these power dynamics. Celebrities are constantly aware that they are not just participating in social interactions, they are participating in a performance, one that is being watched and judged by millions of people. The red carpet, with its flashing cameras and journalists eager for a headline, becomes a battleground where the slightest misstep can result in a career setback. In this context, the decision to reject Meghan Markle could have been influenced not just by Corenswet's personal feelings, but by the ever-present reality that his actions would be reported, analyzed, and dissected by the media. For Meghan, the media's role in these power dynamics has been both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, her fame and the public's obsession with her every move have given her a platform to share her story, to speak out against injustice, and to advocate for causes she believes in. On the other hand, the same media that once celebrated her as a breath of fresh air in the royal family has also relentlessly attacked her, turning her into a figure of controversy. Meghan's every move, whether it's a candid interview or a quiet walk with her children, becomes fodder for tabloids and news outlets. This relentless media attention creates a complex dynamic where she is constantly performing for the public, navigating the fine line between maintaining her authenticity and fulfilling the expectations placed on her as a public figure. So when Meghan approached Corenswet on the red carpet, it wasn't just a casual interaction. It was a moment that carried the weight of both personal and public significance. For Meghan, this interaction was a chance to reclaim some of the power she had lost in Hollywood and the media. It was an opportunity to align herself with a rising star, to show that she still had relevance in the entertainment industry. But for Corenswet, it was an opportunity to decide how he wanted to be seen by the public. And in rejecting her, he not only asserted his own power but also sent a message about the kind of career he wanted to build, a career that would be free from the drama and controversy that often follows high-profile figures like Meghan Markle. In the end, the interaction between Meghan Markle and David Corenswet was not just a moment of personal rejection, it was a reflection of the complex power dynamics that govern Hollywood and celebrity interactions. In an industry where reputations are everything, both Meghan and Corenswet were forced to navigate a web of expectations, pressures, and opportunities. And in that brief, awkward moment on the red carpet, both actors made decisions that would shape the public's perception of them in ways neither could have fully anticipated. Public reactions, eyewitness accounts, and social media response. The aftermath of the confrontation between Meghan Markle and David Corenswet at the Superman premiere quickly became the talk of Hollywood. What started as a simple red carpet interaction, albeit one charged with unspoken expectations, quickly spiraled into a viral event that captivated fans, the media, and social media platforms alike. The rejection, as subtle and almost imperceptible as it might have seemed in the moment, became a topic of intense debate, sparking a flood of reactions from witnesses, fans, and industry insiders. But it wasn't just the initial exchange that made this moment memorable. It was the wave of commentary that followed in its wake. In the hours following the premiere, eyewitnesses from the event began to come forward with their accounts of what had transpired. Many of those present had been caught off guard by the incident, with some recounting how Corenswet's dismissal of Meghan was done with such precision and clarity that there was no mistaking it for anything other than a public rejection. One eyewitness, a well-known photographer who had been positioned near the carpet, described the interaction as surreal. "I saw Meghan approach David with a big smile on her face, and she seemed eager to engage," the photographer said. But the moment she reached him, it was clear that something was off. He didn't reciprocate her smile, and he quickly turned away, almost as though he was trying to distance himself from her physically. Then I heard him say something that seemed to surprise her. "Go away." It wasn't loud, but it was definitely audible to those around us. Everyone was stunned. As the story spread, more eyewitnesses came forward, each confirming the same basic details. Meghan had approached Corenswet, likely hoping for a warm exchange, only to be rejected. But what stood out to many was not just the words themselves, but the way in which the rejection was carried out. For those watching from the sidelines, it wasn't just an uncomfortable moment between two individuals, it was a sharp break in the narrative that had been building around Meghan Markle's place in Hollywood. Another eyewitness, an industry insider, commented on the awkwardness of the moment, noting how it felt like a definitive rupture between the two celebrities. It was like watching a reality check unfold in real time, they said. Meghan has always been this beacon of change and influence, but here was Corenswet, a new Hollywood star who's making his own name. I think he saw this as an opportunity to define his own boundaries, and rejecting her was the clearest way to do that. As the evening wore on, the incident began to make waves in the entertainment industry, with insiders speculating about the reasons behind Corenswet's actions. Was this a personal decision based on their own interactions? Or was it part of a larger strategy to maintain a specific image? In Hollywood, where power plays and alliances are constantly in flux, the dynamics of an exchange like this cannot be understated. The story was soon picked up by tabloids and news outlets, many of which gave it headline treatment. Meghan Markle, already a figure of constant media attention, found herself at the center of a news storm. Headlines such as Meghan Markle rejected by rising star David Corenswet at Superman premiere, and David Corenswet tells Meghan Markle to go away on red carpet, dominated the news cycle. The incident, while brief, had ignited a firestorm of speculation, with journalists and commentators dissecting every possible angle. Social media platforms quickly became the next battleground, with the incident trending within hours of its occurrence. Twitter, in particular, saw an explosion of tweets, memes, and reactions from both fans and critics of both celebrities. Some users took to social media to support Meghan, condemning Corenswet's behavior as rude and unnecessary. They pointed out the hypocrisy of a man who was still new to the industry turning his back on one of Hollywood's most well-known figures. It's incredible how people think they can treat Meghan Markle this way, one Twitter user posted. She's been through so much, and here comes this actor who's just starting out trying to make a name for himself by humiliating her on the red carpet. It's disgusting. Others, however, rallied behind Corenswet, praising him for standing his ground and rejecting an association with Meghan, whom some saw as a divisive figure in Hollywood. Corenswet is a star in the making, and I can understand why he wouldn't want to be associated with the drama surrounding Meghan, wrote another user. It's not about being rude. It's about setting boundaries and not allowing anyone to use you for their personal gain. The polarized nature of the responses reflected the ongoing division surrounding Meghan Markle's public image. For every person who saw her as a victim of the media and the royal family, there was someone else who saw her as a self-serving celebrity who was using her past to build a brand. This incident, in many ways, highlighted the complexity of Meghan's public persona, one that had been both admired and criticized in equal measure. As the discourse on social media intensified, several high-profile figures weighed in on the situation. Celebrities and influencers with large followings shared their thoughts, further fueling the debate. Some defended Meghan, expressing support for her and condemning Corenswet's actions as disrespectful, while others, particularly those with ties to Hollywood, suggested that the rejection was a necessary move to preserve Corenswet's career. I think it's pretty clear that David made the right decision, said one Hollywood insider in a tweet. Hollywood is a place where who you associate with matters. Meghan has a complicated public image, and Corenswet can't afford to risk his own reputation by aligning with her, no matter how famous she is. The responses from fans were equally mixed. Supporters of Corenswet expressed admiration for his ability to set clear boundaries and maintain control over his public image, while Meghan's fans took to social media to argue that she was unfairly treated by a man who was still a newcomer in the industry. She's been through so much already, and yet people continue to tear her down, one fan wrote. This is just another example of how the world continues to treat her unfairly. In the midst of the social media frenzy, a new wave of speculation began to take root. Could there have been a deeper reason behind Corenswet's rejection of Meghan, one that went beyond the immediate optics of the interaction? Was there a behind-the-scenes tension between the two that had led to this moment? Or was this, as some had suggested, a calculated move on Corenswet's part to distance himself from a celebrity whose public image was anything but stable? While Corenswet himself remained silent on the matter, the speculation continued to swirl. In a world where every move is captured and analyzed, it was only a matter of time before the incident became the subject of widespread commentary and debate. The question remained, however, what impact would this have on their respective careers moving forward? Would this rejection become a defining moment for both Corenswet and Meghan, or would it eventually fade into the background of Hollywood's ever-changing landscape? As the weeks passed, the fallout from the Superman premiere incident continued to reverberate through Hollywood. For Meghan, the rejection at the hands of a rising star served as a stark reminder of how fragile her standing in the entertainment industry had become. For Corenswet, the incident offered a glimpse into the high-stakes world of celebrity interactions, where a single decision can shape public perception in ways that last long after the moment has passed. The fallout, how this changed Hollywood's perception of Meghan Markle. The moment David Corenswet rejected Meghan Markle at the Superman premiere wasn't just a fleeting instance of celebrity drama. It was a defining moment that reshaped the way Hollywood viewed her. In an industry where image is everything, the public rejection by a rising star like Corenswet had far-reaching consequences that reverberated beyond the event itself. As the story spread, the media and Hollywood insiders quickly began to speculate on what the incident meant for Meghan's future in the entertainment world, with many wondering if this rejection was a sign of a broader shift in how she would be received by her peers. Meghan Markle's career had already been under intense scrutiny for years. Since her marriage to Prince Harry, she had become a lightning rod for media attention. Her decision to step away from royal duties had caused a stir, both within the royal family and across the globe. While some celebrated her for asserting her independence and speaking out against the constraints of the royal family, others viewed her as a controversial figure who was using her royal connection for personal gain. Her exit from the royal family, which was dubbed Megxit, had marked a turning point in her public persona, shifting her from beloved royal to a figure embroiled in constant media drama. Before the Superman premiere incident, Meghan had been making significant strides in Hollywood. She and Prince Harry had secured multi-million-dollar deals with streaming giants like Netflix and Spotify, further solidifying their presence in the entertainment industry. Meghan had been outspoken about her desire to create content that addressed important social issues, and her projects were met with a mix of anticipation and skepticism. Some saw her as an inspiring figure who could use her platform to make meaningful change, while others viewed her as a celebrity who was more interested in fame and fortune than in truly making an impact. However, the rejection by Corenswet marked a clear shift in the public narrative surrounding Meghan's Hollywood career. Until that point, Meghan had been treated by many in the entertainment industry as a high-profile, though occasionally divisive, figure who commanded attention and respect. But the rejection served as a stark reminder that, despite her fame and influence, she was still vulnerable to the whims of Hollywood's power dynamics. In a town where alliances are everything, the fact that a rising star like Corenswet would reject her was a powerful statement. It signaled that, in some circles, Meghan's association with the royal family and the media circus that surrounded her made her a risky figure to be associated with. Hollywood is an industry built on perception, and the rejection of Meghan Markle by Corenswet only reinforced the narrative that she was an outsider in a world that thrives on exclusivity and controlled image-making.